I'm honored to be joined by Crystal. She's host and producer of First People's Voices. It's beautiful work. Thank you, Crystal. And Barry Maracle, a Christian leader and author. And rounding out the panel today is Carmen Jones from 24/7 Prayer Canada. Well, welcome everyone to 700 Club Canada.
Good to be here.
Howdy.
Great to have you here. Well, let's just go around the board here. Barry, I'm going to start with you. State your Indigenous heritage and tell us in a few words, what does Truth and Reconciliation Day mean to you? Barry first, then Carmen, and then Crystal.
Well, thanks for having us today. And my name is Barry Maracle. I'm from the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory, the land of the great peacemaker. So I'm part of the Haudenosaunee, the people of the Longhouse. And so what this day means to me is, in the midst of all the cancel culture going on, it's a moment to remember and to honor, and for us to never repeat this sort of thing in our nation, and that we would come together as the great village Ganada that we are. Mohawk, Canada is a Mohawk word, which means the village.
Beautiful, beautiful. Carmen.
Yeah, love that, Barry. So good. My name is Carmen Jones. I'm from the Chippewas and Nawash, unceded First Nation in Ontario, Canada, and I'm Ojibwe. And what Truth and Reconciliation Day means to me is very similar to what Barry said, is that we want to honor the residential school survivors, and we want to honor the ones that didn't come back. And what we want to do is that we want to walk forward in reconciliation. And again, what Barry said is that, you know, we don't ever want this to happen again to anybody.
That's right. Thank you for that. Crystal, what about you?
So my name's Crystal Lavallee. I'm Métis from the Red River Settlement, which is present-day Manitoba. And it was my Auntie Annie Lavallee who married into the Louis Riel family. So when we found that piece of information, I realized life made sense. Justice advocate, fought for the rights of the Métis people, and he's the reason why I'm here today celebrating and honoring this day. And so reconciliation, this day actually was part of the TRC's mandate in 2015 that there would be a day similar to November 11th where we stop, we pause, and we reflect, just like what the guys were saying, to remember what happened in our history, Canadian history, that so many have come to understand was a dark chapter, and to figure out how do we move this needle forward and how do we do relationship together.
So good. Well, we're looking forward to learning from all three of you today. Carmen, let me start with you. You said we aren't a problem to be fixed, but a relationship to nurture. Tell us what that should look like.
So yeah, what that means is that, you know, sometimes what happens in Canada is that whenever there's a problem that arises, or whenever there's a tragedy of some sort, that there is a response, and there's a response that is more or less that, you know, how do we fix this right away, move on as if there's no emotions or as if there's no trauma, and sometimes trauma isn't even dealt with. And I feel that that's kind of what has happened to our people. And the way to kind of move forward is to have relationship. So our people have been kind of looked at in that way, whereas we need to be looked at as friends. And this was the original intention when first contact happened, is that we started out with a great relationship as friends. We were helping one another, but that hospitality was abused. And we don't want to walk forward in that anymore. We want to walk forward in relationship.
Yes.
In a healthy relationship.
That's a great word. Crystal, what's your response to that?
Well, I think Carmen said it so eloquently. It just narrows down to relationship, because I think before Kamloops to Kamloops, before that discovery happened, people looked at Indigenous people with the typical stereotypes. Well, they're just drunk, lazy, and they live off the system. But in relationship, you'll discover that we are some of the kindest, we're some of the most generous people who would be willing to give you the shirt off our back if you just got to know us. And we are not those stereotypes, we're not those labels. And so journeying together in relationship, you'll discover that who we are and who God's created us to be as gatekeepers is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's so important. You know, we've spoken of trauma and it's not healed in a day, is it? So, what are some of the challenges that need to be addressed to see greater healing in our land? Barry?
Well, I'd like to circle back to what Carmen was just saying and about our relationship together. It was in 1613 that the Gushuenta, the Turo Wampum, was the first covenant that was ever made in this land between the Iroquois and the Dutch government. And it was the grandpappy of all other covenants that would come forth, and that we would flow down the river of life together, not as father and son, but as brothers, and that we would have each other's best interest, and we would work together and flow together. And we need to get back to partnership. We cannot have negotiations without proper representation. We must have what we're doing today, Lori, and that is communication. There must be more communication. We must work together. We must begin to love together. We must honor each other. And we must, like the good book says, honor and prefer one another over ourselves. And forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But.
Oh, that's so good. Carmen, your response to that?
Yeah, that's great, Barry. Like, and yeah, the two-row wampum. Like, that's so good. That's so good. I think, yeah. So the response to trauma, I feel that in my experience that in Native communities, that everybody is speaking about healing these days. You have people who don't believe in Jesus speaking about healing. People who are, traditional, who are in the culture, speaking about healing. People who are just don't know what they believe in, speaking about healing. And there's a response to each and every one of those. But I really feel that our churches should be places of healing once again, because there hasn't been a real response from our churches sometimes. So we really need healing through, and the place that should be healing is the church, not necessarily the building, but the people.
The people.
Because we are the
Amen.
church. We are the church.
Amen. We are
So good,
the church.
Carmen.
So good. Thank you so much for that. Did you hear that, viewer? That is a word for all of us. Yeah. Barry, you say that everyone has come into this world on purpose with a dream from God. I love your message. Do you see Indigenous communities coming to that realization?
I have such great hope for our people receiving the greater grace, the atrocities, the hurts, the wounds, the betrayal, the unilateral decisions for our own welfare, and we're not even at the table. All these things are producing one thing, a greater grace from God. We are going to be the healing for the nations, and it's going to start in the most unlikely places, in the place of the greatest atrocities, when we release forgiveness. And I'm asking all of our own people to begin to release in the face of the audacity of all the pain and the hurt. Release forgiveness, and you will release healing into this nation and into the nations of the world. Revelation 22:2 says, verse 2 says that the leaves are of the tree are for the healing of the nations, and we are the only one with the flag with the leaf on it, and it's been prophesied we're going to be healers, and the healing revival is coming to every First Nations community. Get ready, guys.
Amen. Amen. Well, on that word, we're going to be right back. We're taking a short break, but hold on to your seats, people, because it's not over yet. We're coming back.